Lewis Hamilton was back on form in Spain, but can his teammate or the home favourite stop his incredible run of 4 wins in the last 5 races? Welcome back to the Formula One Grid Talk podcast. Today we'll be previewing the Belgian Grand Prix. We are powered by the F1 Chronicle. Visit f1chronicle.com for news, reviews and opinions on all things F1. Hosting today with me, George Howson, and joining me today are F1 YouTuber Peter Mujuzi.
Hello.
Former head of marketing at Force India Kunal Shah.
Hi guys.
And Indian rally driver Shahid Salman.
Hello.
Special welcome to Shahid and Peter. It's their first show with us. Welcome, lads. So, Shahid, fair to say last year this was a Ferrari circuit. Ferrari doing incredibly well around Belgium because of their engine, but this year they will not be looking forward to it at all, really.
True, George. Yeah, this season, for the entire season, looks very difficult for Ferrari. Last year, Ferrari was really strong in Spa. They, in fact, got 1-2, and also Charles Leclerc won at Spa. But this year, it doesn't look like Ferrari is going to be doing much. Maybe like Charles Leclerc is the only guy who can probably be on podium if he gets lucky. Otherwise, yeah, pretty much getting 2 cars into the final quali will be pretty much it for Ferrari in Spa.
I think so, yeah. I think given their engine and everything, it's hard for them to really get far at the grid. But you never know. Charles Leclerc has been pulling off some incredible performance this season. And fair play to Sebastian Vettel as well. Last week, he did a good job in Spain as well after his teammate screwed him over on tyres, quite frankly. But yeah, Ferrari's failures have been Mercedes' success, Peter. I mean, it's very hard to look past them this week, and especially with the power of the engine in the back of their car.
Yeah, no, it looks bloody difficult. I was just looking back to the last couple of years in Spa, and, you know, if only we had the Ferrari we had last year, that would have made a bit more of a spice. And, you know, Red Bull, can we see them? Can we see Max pulling off another unbelievable race? I don't know. But like you're saying, even with qualifying, I think, you know, you'd be lucky to get both Ferraris into Q3. The Mercedes look dominant. It's just whether Bottas can give us an entertaining race. Because I think a lot's been said about him. And I feel like he should be the one that should be giving us the most entertainment going head-to-head with Hamilton. But yeah, Mercedes, you can't look past them.
Yeah, definitely. Bottas probably needs to step it up very soon. He needs to get off the line well. And if he doesn't get off the line well in Spa, he's going to be mincemeat down that massively long straight all the way to Le Mans. So we'll see how they work out. Absolutely. Hamilton definitely the man in form. Another team that are in great form, Kunal, your former team in a way, Racing Point, 4th and 5th last time out in Spain. And this is a track where that outfit, going all the way back to the Jordan days, have done very well.
Yeah, it's been, I remember one of my first seasons at Force India, and then suddenly you had Giancarlo Fisichella take pole position and then push it to P2 in the race. The team knows Spa fairly well. You know, there is something in the setup which works like magic, you know, and we've seen how they've had such a strong car this year. So it's going to be exciting to see, how far ahead of the F1 midfield they could very well end up being at Spa, I would say.
Do you think they'll be able to challenge Red Bull this weekend, Kunal?
I think so. I think it's going to be a very tight battle for P2. And, while Valtteri Bottas is, of course, where we all have our hopes in fighting for P1, I think that the Red Bulls would feel a little more challenged by the Racing Point cars this weekend.
Yeah, a little bit more on Red Bull, Shahid. Peter gave him a quick mention there as well. I mean, Verstappen is the only guy that's really consistently been challenging the Mercedes. It's going to be a big ask for him to get in between them this weekend. But the third place are doing very well. But a guy that's got to perform is Alexander Albon. Now, he came from the back of the grid last year. This year, he should have a chance to challenge from the front, but he really has to maintain his qualifying position.
That's right, George. So Alexander Albon has been struggling with the car and the setup throughout the season, from beginning of the season, whereas Max Verstappen is the only guy at Red Bull who's been pulling out the complete potential of the package. So yeah, it's very important for Albon to be qualifying in a decent grid position, to be supportive Max Verstappen throughout the race, and probably try and fend off the Force Indias, because like Kunal said, Force Indias are going to be the Racing Points are going to be really, really strong at Spa. So yeah, the key for Alexander Albon is to get into probably top 5, top 6 of the qualifying position, and probably move up a couple of positions on the long straight in the first 3 laps, and then stay with Max and support him throughout the race.
Yeah, that's going to be his goal, but it's easier said than done, especially with all the pressure he's got on. It's a very tempting first corner last source, but it can all go wrong very fast if you dive your wing in there too much. Now, Mclaren are an interesting one, Peter. They've been perhaps outperforming the car a little bit at times, but Carlos Sainz had a great result last time in Spain in his home race. I mean, this should be a track where they should be able to get solid points, but that Renault engine is not really what they want in the back of the car for a track like this.
No, I think you're right. And I think you're spot on in terms of how they've overperformed that car. And I think at the beginning you could have, I'm a McLaren fan, even though I'm wearing a Mercedes shirt today, but Mercedes engine next year. So I'm just preempting it ahead of time. But I think the fact that the first couple of races McLaren did so well that I can't remember what race it was. I don't know if it was Hungary, but there was a race where I was a bit disappointed with McLaren. But then I sort of had to remember and realize, hang on a minute, they've actually overperformed. So where they are right now is pretty good, nonetheless. And yeah, Sainz had some good points last weekend. I think it's going to be an absolute battle. It's going to be a hard race for them. I see them and the Renaults, funny enough, going to be fighting it out amongst themselves with Ferrari as well. So whether that's a good sign on McLaren, I don't know. Whether that just says more about Ferrari than anything else. But I think it's going to be those three teams because the Racing Point, I almost called them Force India. The Racing Point do look tremendous, and I think they're going to split the Red Bulls, in my opinion. Just like they did last weekend. So McLaren, they're going to have to, it's just going to be the strategy that has to work. They've got to, what's the best result we can get? Let's go for that and be comfortable with that as opposed to try and, gun ho and then blow up the engine or whatever.
Yeah, 7th and 8th, I think will be a very good result for McLaren, but you never know. They could pick up a few more, especially if a few people retire, which is not uncommon at all in Spa. A track that really pushes the drivers and the cars to the limits. And you mentioned how close it is in that upper midfield battle. It's just 2 points between Racing Point, McLaren and Ferrari. Cut adrift of that, though, is Renault, Kunal. And they're a team that they're kind of in no man's land at the moment. They're a good ways ahead of AlphaTauri, but they're a long way off 5th place Ferrari. They had a good low drag setup in Monza last year. Could they mix it up this weekend? It's going to be a big ask for them, really, given their current form.
I'm pretty upbeat about what Renault could end up doing because, their engine isn't as bad as, we've sort of historically remembered it to be, especially, in this hybrid turbo era. And, there's a reason why even McLaren have been able to pull off the results that they could because the engine has sort of supported, the chassis. Also, the Renault boys would be pretty kicked because, the last race in Spain was the first race of the season where they scored no points. So I'm sure they'll be itching to get back into the points come Spa. And Daniel Ricciardo's always trying to prove a point, given that he's going to be leaving Renault. And then there's of course Esteban, who's always trying to say that, hey, if Mercedes try and remember George Russell, I've been here before him. So all positive signs, and like you said, they are in no man's land, but that somewhat is making the midfield battle a little more interesting because everyone's trying to sort of get that extra edge in that uber competitive 4th, 5th, 6th spot.
Yeah, they could mix it up. You never know. And like I said, Monza coming straight off Spa, and they did very well there last year, so they could see a repeat of that. It only takes a few good results for them to propel them back into contention with Ferrari and McLaren in 4th and 5th. 7th in the constructors, Shahid. Again, another team that's kind of by itself, really. AlphaTauri, they won't be unhappy about that at all. And they've got a good engine in the back of that car, the Honda. I think Gasly has a real chance of good points this weekend.
True, George. So Gasly's been really strong in the AlphaTauri throughout the season. And like you said, with the Honda power, Gasly has a fair chance to get into the points to finish top 10, and he's been consistent throughout the season. Yeah, Gasly should be there, hopefully.
Yeah, it'll be challenging. You never know. And Kvyat wasn't far off points either last weekend, despite his penalty. I'll have a few words about those penalties for him and Perez, though. Still not exactly agreeing with them. Steward's not getting the priorities right, in my opinion. But there we go. Now, yeah, it's mad how the Haas cars can nearly take the Alfa Romeos out. Not a word said. You don't let Lewis Hamilton pass immediately on a straight, even though you're probably giving him a slipstream. Penalty. Sort it out, stewards. We need more consistent stewards. We need the same stewards at every race weekend. We get too much variation. And I think it's because we've got different people in the boxes, but that's just my opinion. But yeah, so speaking of Alfa Romeo, Peter, now last year, Spa could have been a good weekend for them. They had real pace around there. Giovinazzi binned it into the wall. Raikkonen got damage in the first corner. This year, though, they won't be expected much because not even the engine can really save them.
No, that Ferrari engine this year, I haven't got a clue because they'll be mixing it with the Haas, they'll be mixing it with the Williams, which, it might create its own battle. We talk about midfield battles, we talk about the front. What about the back end? The back end has its own. And sometimes it could be a bit more. I mean, there's not enough coverage of it on TV, in my opinion. I don't think, just because it's not as entertaining or exciting to talk about. But those three teams, you know, especially with the Alfa Romeos, they need to. I don't even know what on earth. Like you said last year, as you were talking about last year, they had the pace, and yet this year it's just going to be a case of who's going to crash into who. I have a feeling there'll be some accidents with the Alfa Romeos.
There's a lot to gain that first corner, and it's just so weird seeing Kimi Räikkönen struggle like this. I think he's won 4 Belgian Grand Prix. I think he's won more than Hamilton, and getting points this weekend in that car will be a minor miracle. It really will be.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they got, what was it, 14th last weekend, Räikkönen, I think, qualified 14th.
That was a good
14th.
Result.
And that's a great result, exactly. So, oh God, I don't know. I hope the best for Räikkönen. It just makes me wonder, you know, what's he thinking ahead of the season? Is he packing his bags? Yeah, you know, what's he gonna do? So, you know,
I think he's looking forward to retirement, and I really don't blame him. He's been in F1 nearly 20 years now, so fair play to him. I think he'll step aside and let Schumacher or Schwartzman or Eilert or someone like that be in the car next year with Giovinazzi, if Giovinazzi's retained even. Although he is beating Räikkönen in the standings, fair play to him for that. He does have that, but it's not a true reflection of how the season's gone, really.
I like how Giovinazzi started races, to be fair. In every race this season, he's at least overtaken 1 or 2 drivers, and so his start will be interesting to see. That I'll look forward to.
Definitely, yeah. I think they've got a decent chance of beating the Haas and the Williams around them, but it's hard to see them beating anybody else, really. Another team that are really struggling, another team with a Ferrari engine, Kunal, is Haas. But there has been a lot of speculation about these guys potentially leaving the sport, but by the sounds of things, that's not going to happen. They've signed the Concord agreement, as have all the teams, and they're committed to Formula One until at least 2025.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic that, you know, we've had the Concord agreement signed off. And, you know, all 10 teams have agreed to stay in the sport for, you know, till 2025, like you said. And that in itself is a big achievement for Liberty Media, because this is now, this was like the last block they needed to put in place to call Formula One their sport, you know, because progressively with every season and, you know, every quarter of every season passing, they've sort of made changes to the rules and brought in the budget cap and now the Concord agreement, which is extremely important given how skewed the previous agreement was. So I think fantastic for, you know, Liberty Media, and, you know, we can all just look forward to a better era for the sport going forward. But that can't be said for their American counterparts at Haas. You know, they've been pretty honest saying, hey, this is the car that we've got to race with. There are no upgrades coming in 2020. And, you know, each time, you know, a Haas driver makes it into the top 15, top 12, suddenly everyone gets their hopes high saying, oh, are they going to end up scoring points? So I'll be definitely cheering for both the drivers, because, you know, it's not that they're not trying as hard as, or probably even harder than some of the other guys at the front. It's just that they sort of get lost in this whole story of being the, you know, back of the current midfield and so on. So I'll be cheering for Haas this weekend as well. Unfortunate that they have the Ferrari engine, but, you know, with the engine mode ban coming into Monza, we'll have to see how that sort of evens out some of the competition.
Yeah, that engine ban will be interesting. Hamilton's saying that it's not going to affect Mercedes, but I don't know. I think it probably affects all the teams fairly equally. I could be wrong though. Could affect others more than Mercedes or less than Mercedes. Ferrari definitely needs some help on that front, as do Renault to an extent. We'll have to see what happens. I just hope that we don't see any crazy defending by Magnussen and Grosjean this time, because if it's down the Kemmel Straight and they're trying to pull them moves that they've been pulling in Spain and Silverstone, we're going to get an airplane crash. It's not going to be pretty. It's going to, like, remember when Verstappen tried it on Raikkonen a few years ago? Yeah. That could have easily been that. So,
and it's, you know, it seems very heroic when somebody like a Verstappen does it. There is some bit of flair, you know, to his driving. But unfortunately, when somebody like a Grosjean does it, it seems downright villainous. You're like, oh my God, what is wrong with this guy? So, you know, we all have our biases, and, you know, thankfully they're in favor of Max, and unfortunately against what Roman would do time and again.
Well, they've not had a penalty yet for it, I don't think. I think they had one penalty in, I want to say, one of the Silverstone rounds. I think that's it. That's the only time one of them's got penalised. So they've got away with it somehow so far. I don't know how, but they have. So they'll probably keep trying it, but we'll see what happens. Now, the last team on the grid, Shahid, Williams, and another team whose future was in doubt. They have signed the Concord agreement, like everybody else has, but they have new owners as well. So I think that could give them a bit of a boost. That and the Mercedes engine in the back of the car, which will really help them along a high-speed circuit like Spa.
That's right, George. So Williams has been the only team with the Mercedes engine, which is truly not performed in terms of like Force India and the Mercedes have been really on top, and Williams with the Mercedes engine on the fair has not been able to compete with the package has not been as strong as the other Mercedes teams. With the investment coming in and new investors, there's going to be a lot more room for Williams to develop, and with the funds like that, probably towards the end of the season, we should probably have a stronger Williams, or 2021 should be looking much, much stronger for Williams with the kind of money coming in for the next year.
Yeah, you think they'd pour some money into the car, definitely, but it depends where they're putting their efforts, because Peter, they could well focus all their efforts towards 2022, because realistically, they're not really going to do much, even with a lot of upgrades coming on the car.
Yeah, I mean, they could. I think this is first of all like a good news that there's some money getting put into this team, because it's been a long time coming. We thought with Rocket, something's going to come of age, but then of course that fell apart. And now you just sort of think, okay, hopefully this investment company now really just gives Williams what they need in order to put that car back in at least the midfield. Give us a midfield competition. The days of Massa and Bottas are not that far away. Not that many years ago. So we would love to see them back in that pack. Yes, you might have to look towards 2022, because 2021, it does look a bit hard for them to do and make such a quick turnaround. New regulations in place. Let's see what can come of age. Like you said about Mercedes, we don't know quite how much of an impact it's going to have. We know that some teams will love it and some teams will hate it once it comes into play. So by testing, we'll find out who really loves it and who hates it. But I hope Williams are back up there. I really do.
I did too. It's sad seeing a team like them struggle so bad at the back of the grid. Well, they won like 9 Constructors' Championships, 6 Drivers' Championships, something like that. 3rd in the all-time list. Sad. It is very sad, yeah. It's a bit sad as well that it's come to this Kunal, I mean, in a way, they were the last independent team on the grid. I guess you could say Mclaren, but it's sad to see them go this way, but I suppose it's what has to happen nowadays for them to compete.
Yeah, personally, I think it's very positive news for the overall business of Formula One and Formula One teams, because, everyone was sort of waiting to see what the Concord Agreement would be like, if that would unlock more investment opportunities. And, within days of the Concord being announced, there was this announcement of, new owners for Williams. And of course, I'm sure the deal was in the pipeline for several days, and it wasn't just that, okay, here's a new Concord, so here's a new owner that's coming. So I think in a way, it was probably one of those things that would have anyway happened. I assume we might still hear a new owner or new investments coming into even the likes of Haas and so on, because one assumes that the business of owning a Formula One team is going to become far more profitable given the new blocks that Liberty Media has put in place. And I think Williams is a great brand to sort of lead us into that direction. And it's great that Doralton Capital are still going to race under the brand Williams. They're going to continue the chassis name and so on. So they are sort of showing the respect to the brand name on a sporting as well as commercial sense of things.
Yeah, Williams lives on, and hopefully they never replace the name, because it's such a big name. It's such a huge name in the history of Formula One. It's over 40 years they've been in it. It's Frank Williams doing an incredible job to get into so much success and being such a small team throughout all that. But nothing's forever in a way, I guess. It's sad to see, but it'd be interesting to see what happens to Claire Williams as well. It'd be interesting to see if she'll continue on. There's a lot of rumours about her being given the axe. I think they'll keep her, especially for now, see how she performs, but we'll see. Nobody's invincible in Formula One. Yeah, let's go with our top 3 predictions for this race. I'm going to go with Hamilton to win. Big shock. Max Verstappen second. And I'm going to go for that man, Checo Perez. I'm going to go for him for 3rd place. He's got many podiums throughout his career. But I haven't got this season so far, and that Racing Point looks very, very strong. It's definitely not out of the realms of possibility. Shahid, what's your predictions for the top three?
Well, I'm hoping that Bottas actually, wins the race, and probably Bottas, Hamilton, and the third place, I think it's between Max Verstappen and Checo Perez.
Peter, what's your top three predictions?
See, I'm like Shahid, man. I'm hoping for a Bottas win, because at some stage, at what point are we going to get the aggressive Bottas? Because I think that's the only thing that's probably missing in Bottas's armor is the aggression. He's got the car. He is a good driver, but what Hamilton has over him, Hamilton is maxed to the limit. So for me, I'm going to go Bottas, because I think it's time. I think it's time we get something new. I'm going Bottas. I'm with you, Shahid. I'm going Bottas. In second, I will go Hamilton. And in third, I'm going to go Checo as well. I'm going to go Perez as well. I think the Red Bulls will flatter to deceive, unfortunately.
Interesting. Kunal, what's your top three predictions?
I'm just going to allude to what Peter said, and just going to say that Bottas's aggression is almost what you'll never get to see, because it's a very Nordic style of, him doing it. And like when I sit through driver interviews and stuff, you can make out that he's so focused and he's so charged and so on. And yes, I would love to see him win. That's where the heart says, and that's what the mind says as well. I think he's had, he of course had bad luck in the first race at Silverstone, and then a few, odd starts which sort of caught him out. So I would put him for P1 as well. And then unless something really, unexpected happens, I don't see anyone else taking P2 but Lewis Hamilton. But the battle for P3 is what might just entertain us. And I'm tempted to go with Checo Perez, but I also get this feeling that maybe the whole low downforce setup that Ferrari are able to sort of pull into sometimes, you never know if Charles Leclerc is going to be able to try and pitch in for P3 on a different strategy.
Fair enough. Kunal, we understand you've got to get going soon, so feel free to drop out of this one. It's been good having you on the show.
Likewise, gentlemen, thank you so much, and enjoy the race next weekend, and I'll speak to you all soon.
All right, take care.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Bye-bye. Man, if Charles Leclerc gets the podium, that'd be my days.
I was tempted. I was thinking there's going to be something from Charles, but I thought, nah, come on, who am I kidding? Honestly, Charles was ringing in my head, but I just said, nah, don't be stupid. Just leave it. But I'd love that. I'd love to see that.
Yeah, me too. I'd love to see that as well. I honestly think if he gets 6th or 7th, though, that'd be a hell of a result. That'd be very respectable. That's the pace that Ferrari have, though, especially around a power track.
Yeah, you're not
fortunately for them, he can't really hold people off because it's probably the easiest track to overtake on the calendar, frankly. So,
yeah, God knows what they're going to look like at Monza.
We've been talking about this. Monza, Imola, and Mugello. They're all extremely high-speed tracks, all in Italy. The Mugello's the 1000th Grand Prix for Ferrari. It's just set up for them to get like 9th and 10th or something. It just seems like it's going to be that.
What's your reasoning for what's happened at Ferrari this year, if you don't mind me asking? Like, what do you think has happened?
Well, with the engine, basically the FIA has been like, right, you guys have cheated last year. We know you've cheated. We know. So we're just going to let you change that. Don't do it again, and we won't punish you. That's basically what's happened. Only Ferrari can do that. Any other team will get disqualified from the championship. So Ferrari kept the results last year. So they've lost power on the engine because of that. They've had to majorly redesign it. And apparently they just added a load of drag to the car in search of downforce. It didn't make any more downforce and made the car slower in a straight line. So they just went back to the Barcelona spec and they're basically just on the back foot. So they've absolutely shot themselves in both feet, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to lay the blame completely on Binotto as well, but a lot of people have been saying that he's a great engineer. He's just a poor leader. So,
right.
I mean, ultimately, the buck stops at him, doesn't it? So
that's the thing, yeah.
So we'll see what happens. I would be very surprised if he makes it to the end of the season, frankly. But
we'll really? To the end?
Well, it's happened before, hasn't it? I can't remember his name. Was it Materazzi or something like that? I think he was sacked about halfway through his first season.
Was Domenicali another one?
Domenicali lasts for years. But I think he was sacked partway through one of the years, 2013, 2014.
Well, yeah, the one that you're referring to, he was gone during the season as well.
Yeah.
I mean, Ferrari, man. What a story. What a story.
Who would have predicted it? I thought they would have been at least up with Red Bull, at least challenging Mercedes, but they're miles off.
Yeah, they're miles.
Firmly a midfield team, just like that pole by F1. That must have hurt Ferrari fans. That who's the most likely midfield team to get a podium this season? Ferrari being on that list.
Yeah, it's a fair question.
It is. They are a midfield team this season. They are. It can happen to McLaren. It can happen. I mean, Williams are back of the grid. It can happen to anybody.
Yeah.
You got to perform. Only one takes no prisoners.
I must admit, I'm surprised they signed the Concord Agreement. If there's one team I'm surprised that that didn't delay to the very end, it's Ferrari. Because we all know what they're like when it comes to they cry about anything. So I'm amazed that they were one of the few that were in it from the beginning. So
I don't think they have a leg to stand on though, because the engine thing from last year. If the FIA really wanted to, they could wipe the results, which I guess they'd lose out on a lot of prize money. But other than that, it's not a massive punishment for them. They're always going to be there. They're always going to enter F1. F1 is Ferrari. Ferrari is F1.
That's the thing, yeah. Well, and they spent so much money, so I'm confused. Where's this money going to?
They just did a crap redesign of the car, and they had to go back and spend more money to fix it.
Oh God!
Simple as that. They just went in one direction.
Maybe they need a better driver. Let's get Shahid in there as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, Shahid, how many super license points do you have? I reckon you might be close.
Well, no, I do not have any super license points. But yeah, I think more than a driver, Ferrari really needs a team and a car. I mean, the team has been poor, especially saw with Seb Vettel, the last Grand Prix and throughout the season. Ferrari's been really poor with the drivers, and we have seen them commit millions of errors in pit strategies and whatnot in the last 2-3 years. So more than drivers, I think Ferrari really needs a team somebody like Ross Brawn or John Todd. That's something. The leadership is what Ferrari is lacking at the moment.
I don't know why they got rid of Arriva Bene. That still really puzzles me. I don't know why they did that. They should have kept him. They'd be doing a lot better now if they did.
That's right.
I agree.
There you go. One thing as well I want to mention, I don't think we've mentioned it in the show itself, is there is a very strong rumour that the calendar's gonna end by going to Turkey, to Istanbul Park, a double header in Bahrain, and then the UAE, the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix to finish off the season. What's your reaction to that, Shahid? I mean, I'm very excited to see Turkey back on the calendar, really.
Well, yeah, Turkey is one of my favourite circuits on the calendar, and it's been missing. And I'm so excited. When I saw the news that Istanbul was linked to the calendar, I was really, really excited. And probably back a decade ago, it's one of the dominant circuits for Ferraris, but unfortunately, it doesn't look like this season. But yeah, it's going to be good to have Turkey back on the calendar. The other circuits as well, like Mugello, and a lot of interesting circuits which haven't been raced in Formula 1, like Imola. So this season, despite starting off late and lesser number of races, it's still going to be exciting, and it's really special.
Yeah, 17 races in total. Yeah, 17 races in total, if the rumour is to be believed. One of those Bahrain races will be at the outer ring, basically near enough an oval, Peter, which I think should be interesting. I've looked at a sim of it. It's only a 55-second lap, but it's rapid.
Oh, that's good, because you know what? When I saw Bahrain having a double header, I thought, well, maybe make one in the daytime, one at night. I don't know how they're gonna mix this up, but the fact that they're doing a different track altogether, I'm excited for that. Again, it's one of those of the unknown. No driver's gone through that yet. We've not had that before on the calendar, so it will be fun to see. It kind of reminds me of, was it Indianapolis, where they had that sort of half the track was kind of that towards the end. You had like a massive like an oval straight sort of thing. But yeah, look, I'm excited to see it. I've never seen it before, and hopefully a bit more spice. If it's only 55 seconds, you sort of favour the power cars, don't you? So it's one of those where maybe again could be a Mercedes 1-2. Hopefully Max might get in the mix of it. But by then the season would have transformed till by then. So we don't know what kind of where the cars will be, what the upgrades for certain teams will look like. So I'm excited. I'm happy with that. I'm actually quite happy now that I know that it's two separate tracks as opposed to just the same.
Yeah, it's the regular circuit for the first round, and the second one will be the outer circuit. So it's like the pit straight, the second straight, the last straight, and there's the little bit that joins it in between with a chicane. It uses a bit of the god awful endurance layout that we use, but it's the fast bit. So another power track for Ferrari to endure, I think, is the takeaway. They must be hating all these tracks that are coming.
I mean, now that you're saying that, what you said about Ferrari's issues in terms of that engine they had last year, this could be the FIA's way of saying, we're gonna let you off. However, we're gonna kill you when it comes to the circuits that we're gonna choose. So that's probably what they've done. I've clocked onto their game there. I see what they've done. I'm with it, FIA. I'm with it.
That's clever.
More,
yeah,
honestly, more drama, more headache for Ferrari. It's unheard of, you'd think, but maybe that's what their plan was all this time.
One thing that Ferrari have, another thing Ferrari potentially got away with as well. We mentioned it on the review show last week. We didn't really go into too much detail. Is that Charles Leclerc was let out of the pits in Spain without his seatbelts, and again, just they're penalising people for not moving out of the way for blue flags, but they let a guy go out without seatbelts on, and there's no punishment. If I do that in my road car and a policeman sees me, he'll pull me over and I'll get points on my license probably. But if you're an F1 driver or if you're a Ferrari driver, you don't need him apparently. It's absolutely bizarre.
To this day, time of recording, there's been nothing from the FIA concerning this, and that is shocking. I mean, there's been videos by all kinds of content creators that have put out, what a scandal this is. I just sat there and laughed because I said you couldn't make this story up. And then you couldn't make the fact that you're not even going to get charged or penalised. But like you say, let that have been, let that be any other, racing point. They seem to be beating them with a stick, every now and again. You throw one of them in there and, let Checo or Stroll have no seatbelt in, and somehow Otmar will take the penalty for it. It's just, what a time to be. 2020 is just bizarre, and that includes F1 as well.
It really is. I mean, Shahid, you're a racing driver. I'm sure you wouldn't dream of racing one of your rally cars without seatbelts on. But Charles Leclerc was put out there without them. I know they were probably trying to rush him out to not lose as much time. But if he crashed, if he went wide, if he got hit by somebody because he was traveling slowly, it could have been a horrific crash for him.
Yeah. That's right, Josh. But the thing with the seatbelt is, without wearing a seatbelt, you're not going to go very fast in a race car because you're going to be moving a lot. You're going to be shifting. So it's very important to stay buckled to your seat. That's the only time you're going to go fast. Without the seatbelt, I'm sure probably be it a rally car or a Formula car, you would still be much, much slower because you're going to be traveling in your cockpit. So I think the case with Charles Leclerc would be probably one of the mounting points of the seatbelt would have come loose or it would have been damaged probably. I'm sure the stewards would have taken a look at it post the race. If it was a deliberate move or case, Ferrari forgot to fix a seatbelt or, probably fasten one of the mounting points. And I'm sure the stewards would have penalized because safety is the highest priority in motorsports. And I'm sure it should have been an accident or something which came off during the race. Probably that's the reason Leclerc wasn't penalized, because probably even the lowest form of motorsport and entry-level motorsport, seat belts, your helmets and your gloves are the most basic things, and without that, you're going to get penalized. So obviously in Formula One, it's not going to be any different. Probably it had to do, and we didn't get a clear picture. There was nothing much after the race from the last weekend about the seatbelt issue. That's the only case, because nobody's going to walk free without if it was a Ferrari's mistake to do with the seatbelt and not of an accident, I'm sure Ferrari doesn't think less. And probably that is the reason they had to retire Leclerc off the car, because they couldn't get the seatbelt fixed.
I don't know. I think you're probably right, Shahid, but it's just we've not really heard anything about it. So it makes you think, especially being Ferrari as well. If it was another team, you'd maybe think, oh, there's probably a reason for it. Because it's Ferrari, you think, what have they done? How have they got away with this? So I don't know. Maybe we're being a bit biased, but the fact that nobody's really come out and said that much is suspicious, to say the least. All right. Well, so thank you very much for joining us, lads. It's been a pleasure having you on the show.
No, thank you for having me.
More than welcome. More than welcome, both of you. We do have a official store for merchandise, and I actually have some to show you here. It's very, very apt. I know it's mirrored, but I'm sure you can read it. It's a famous quote from Gunther Steiner. It's very apt for me, not for you guys. You're professionals, I'm sure. But yeah, if you want to buy this and some other famous quotes from down the years by Kimi Räikkönen and Daniel Ricciardo, then head to the F1 Chronicle website for that, f1chronicle.com. If you want to get involved in the discussion, feel free to comment on our live streams. This is a preview that was recorded on Sunday. It usually goes out on Wednesday on the website. If you want to see it early, go to the F1 Chronicles Facebook page, F1 Chronicle on Facebook. We are also available on YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Music, Omni Studio, Pocket Cast. Just search for the F1 Grid Talk and all of those. We've got a back catalogue of over 50 shows now, including an interview with Mario Rousseau, the head of Ferrari Motorsport, Tiregate, Ayrton Senna, the Benetton conspiracy in 1994. Just look for all those on our website. We have a Patreon. If you guys don't want to buy any of this merchandise, that's up to you. But if you want to donate to the show, you can. We do have a Patreon. Just search for F1 Grid Talk on those for that. And yes, we'll be back on Saturday to analyse qualifying for the Belgian Grand Prix. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.
Bye-bye. Ciao.